Hello and welcome to You Are Human, a show attempting to decode human potential and possibilities by bringing you real stories, real heroes. We are all born as curious souls. It is indeed our curiosity that has taught us so much, from understanding ourselves, from understanding the relationships we have, from understanding nature and the world around. It is all based on how curious we were and how curious we are. My today's guest has held tightly to the power of curiosity that has in turn helped him discover himself, his true purpose, his true why. Today, he is a meditation teacher, a spiritual guide, and a purpose coach. He is not just transforming his life, but is also helping many more around him to find their why. He's currently working on his first book, and he is today joining us all the way from Sydney. Please welcome Rohit Sahoo. Hi, Rohit. How are you today?
Hi, Jagruti. I'm very well. Thank you. Thank you for your heartfelt introductory note. I'm quite flattered and honored to receive such kind words of appreciation from yourself. And it's my honor and privilege to have been offered a platform on your thriving podcast to give my perspective and view.
It is indeed not just my pleasure, but my honor to have you here because I believe that there are so many of us who are still in this struggle of finding our purpose. This is something that is being overspoken today. I think for the right reasons, because it's high time we all realize that our lives are so short and we all are here for a reason and we ought to live that reason. So it is indeed my honor to have you here because you are that special someone who has discovered his purpose. Rohit, it is said that in order to find our purpose, if we don't know what is our purpose, we need to look deeper into the wounds we have had in our life. I'm not sure how true that is because it's something I recently read and I hear a lot of people talking about it. I want to understand from you, has your journey also transformed to, you being today this conscious, spiritual, profound person and walking on this journey of yours? Has it also been a result of a wound or has your journey been different?
Jagruti, if I may confide in you, uh, you have, in a nutshell, described the pivotal phenomena which has catalyzed my spiritual awakening, transformation, and unfolding growth as it's happening. Tracing my spiritual journey way back to 2009, when I had been overcome with with an existential listlessness and a depression to a point that I had found it difficult to find a purpose to live beyond few days, or to even wake up in the morning and go about my daily affairs was proving to be a too burdensome a task. And looking back in my life, I could clearly discern that every major spiritual growth or or an experience of spiritual nature has been preceded by a phase of extreme inner toil and pain. Now, when I say this, it needs to be considered in the context of why do we experience pain? Why do we at times experience an utter listlessness at what what unfolds in our life? From the spiritual vantage point, from the highest dimension, every suffering can be traced to the degree of a mind, the degree to which our mind and ego reign supreme over our truth, our reality. One of the great Sufi mystics, Rumi, had spoken that wound is the space or portal where the light enters. And it carries a profound significance in truth. Because wound makes you confront your inherent inadequacies, your inherent distorted egoic lens through which you have been accustomed to perceive and go about living your life. And when you start identifying yourself with your mind to a degree that you lose sense of the fact that mind or an ego is simply a utilitarian mask or a utilitarian illusion, which all of us have come to assume over our essential essence, or what I call as the spirit. When the misidentification with ego grows to a point that we start identifying ourselves as an egoic entity, often the universal intelligence orchestrates certain experiences which drives you to a point that the pain proves pivotal to help you leap beyond your illusions. That's what had happened in my life in 2009, way back in 2015, and as recently as 2018, when I was pushed to the brink of my life as I speak, as I understood. And essentially, when I look back, I could clearly understand that it was orchestrated by the intelligence to help me look through the illusion of mind and ego, which has been perpetually creating suffering for myself and my fellow beings since lifetimes and lifetimes and lifetimes. And now, as I'm increasingly attuning myself with my higher spirit, I am to that degree experiencing a profound sense of joy, an expansiveness, a sense of freedom, which has revealed to me this entire process of out overflowing of love and joy and freedom has by its own virtue revealed to me my higher purpose. And my higher purpose being to share this love, joy, and the tools and techniques through which humankind can uncover this inexhaustible wellspring of joy which forever exists in all our beings. Yes. Within all our beings.
Yes, absolutely. You rightly put it that this ocean of joy is within us. It is just a matter of connecting with it or realizing it or facing it. And I also feel from whatever you have narrated that in life, why a downfall or pain or a wound, because we started this conversation with wound, why is it so important? You know, it's wonderful that life is not monotonous, that it does not have this one tone. The beauty of life is that it has so many different tones because each tone then opens different doors within us. And once we open the doors within us, only then we can realize the potential that we have, and then we can understand the world as a whole. So, thank you so much for sharing that because it reiterates the importance of going through pain, going through a wound, and not just holding back to the pain and to the wound. Because, like you, a lot of people might have gone through similar painful experiences, but not all of them are capable to change, the direction of their life or take charge of what they have recently discovered or found. So thank you so much, and it really brings more faith in the power of wound also. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. The universe is not masochistic. The highest intelligence is not a sadist that revels in its fellow children's suffering. The suffering often it gets precipitated of our own doing, because we are so identified with our mind and ego that unknowingly we give in to the machinations of our egoic entity. And ego by its nature can only create suffering. It can never satiate the thirst of our spirit and our being. And those experiences which we can characterize as painful experiences of wounding, pain, sadness, extreme sense of sadness, to a great degree is of our own doing.
Right.
And when I say own doing, it's of the doing of a mind. It's a doing of an ego. This is the sum total and essence of spiritual growth and spiritual awakening. That awakening from what? Awakening from our illusions, awakening from our slumber, awakening from our misidentification to align which is true.
Right. Yeah.
And as we align with the truth, we unshackle ourselves from the bondage of suffering.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's the truth that sets us free, isn't it? However
Yeah,
hard or
absolutely.
difficult it
Yes.
is. When we
Yeah,
talk
yeah.
about wound, Rohit, with a wound comes the process of healing. And every wound has a different time frame. It cannot be, oh, if Rohit took, say, a month to heal through this wound, I will also need a month because everybody's wounds are different, everybody's time frame is different. Now, when we are healing, in the process of healing, there's so much that we learn. We tend to become more stronger. We are more, we are more resilient. There's so much that we gain out of the process of healing. What do you like? Do you have a method when it comes to healing?
My method, as it is being transmitted to me by my living guru, Sakshi Shri, who is an enlightened master, to whom I credit my transformation, my joy, and this explosion of inner love which has happened within me. Now, healing, to my understanding, as I have understood it very intimately and in depth, healing, long lasting healing, can only be brought about if we can transcend the hold of the mind over our being. Now, we, all of us to some degree, might have had certain experiences in our past which might veer towards pain, sadness, and traumatic experiences of varying degrees. Now, what these experiences eventually end up doing, they actually reinforce the hold of the mind over our spirit. It 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 leads us to fall in the trap of mind even more, which then creates the symptoms of excessive rumination, obsessive compulsive disorder, endless thinking. We invariably become victims of our own mind. We become the prisoner of our own mind. And to that degree, we become prisoners of our own mind. This creates all sorts of neuroses, psychological neuroses, as well as it somatizes in forms of dysregulated nervous system,
True.
anxiety, depression, and it also somatizes in various other ailments. Right? Science is now coming to a view that many of the ailments and many of the severe ailments to heart diseases, cardiovascular issues, kidney issues, blood pressure, lung ailments can be traced to it, our mindset,
Right.
can be traced to how our distorted mindset has played into creating this cocktail of hormones which has been creating a havoc within our body. This cocktail of stress hormones which feed into a dysregulated system, and it sets itself on a vicious loop of a
Right.
dysregulated nervous system feeding into a dysregulated mind, and a dysregulated mind feeding into a dysregulated nervous system. So this sets in motion a vicious loop which perpetuates this increasing outpour of the stress hormones which wreaks havoc in a body, and that somatizes itself in many physical ailments down the line. So in nutshell, the pathway to healing can be successfully traversed through the tool of meditation. It's meditation, and meditation, in my understanding, in my good understanding, which can pave way towards long lasting permanent healing.
Are you
And
someone who
as, because
meditates?
this is not something which I'm just speaking from hearsay, this is something which I have applied on my own self.
Right.
This modality of meditation has been applied over a test case of me, of Rohit Sahoo, to a, a spectacular result. And I can only speak for myself. I can, and through my own personal experience, I can speak for all of us to a point, because truth of the power of meditation is not only being validated by myself, it has been vouched for by all leading spiritual giants and healers since time immemorial.
Yes, since thousands of years. If you look at our Vedic culture, the Vedic philosophy, it goes back, thousands and thousands of years. And all our Rishi Munis, they all talked about the power of meditation. And I believe meditation is more about being in the now, being present, and also connecting with ourselves and the higher purpose, the higher energy, the infinite, as you usually address the universe, and you say that you have surrendered to the infinite. Because I have been watching your videos, and I've been reading about you, and you have often said this one statement, that the time you realized your purpose, you understood it, you had immediately surrendered to the infinite and to the universe. I just want to know that how liberating is the art of surrendering?
Art of surrendering is the most courageous act, is the act which is rooted in absolute courage,
Hmm.
absolute faith, absolute hope. What is actually surrender? What does it connote? Usually connote. It connotes abdication of responsibility. It connotes admission of weakness.
Hmm.
Usually it connotes this, which is far from the truth. Surrender helps us to transcend our limited self and surrender ourselves to the infinite. Once we surrender ourselves to the infinite, we, in a way, become infinite. So
Yes.
once you surrender,
Hmm.
you transcend your limited self to align with the infinite, to a point there is to a point where there exists no separation between you and the infinite.
Hmm.
When there is no separation between you and the infinite, when the knower ceases to be the knower, when the knowing ceases to remain knowing, the know then only what then remains? It remains infinite. Only infinite exists. So the infinite is a positive statement. Buddha spoke of it as nothingness.
Hmm.
It's an inverted statement. It's one of the same things.
Right.
You can describe it as nothingness, you can describe it as infinite, you can describe it as Brahman, you can describe it as super consciousness, you can describe it as Holy Spirit. The terms eventually can be used all in sundry, but
Yeah.
essentially what does it define? It defines an transcendental experience where you cease to be your limited self,
Right.
when you align with the infinite spirit, when you align with all that exists.
Hmm.
Krishna spoke of this experience as yatha bhutam, you know, experiencing universe as it is, unmediated through the lens of your mind and five senses.
Hmm.
Then you experience universe as it is. It has been called as yatha bhutam.
There's something that I say every morning, after my shower when I sit for prayers, and it is just so similar to what you said. And the shloka, it goes by Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate. It means that God, you are Purna, whatever you believe in, the universe, the infinite, you are Purna. Purna means complete. And I am a part of you. I'm also Purna, meaning I am Purna, I am complete. There's nothing that I need to change, or nothing that I am, in scarcity of. Because as you said, that if that's the infinite, and if I surrender, I am the infinite too. There is no bhed, as they say, no, there is no difference. We are one. So thank you so much, because while you were narrating it, while you were explaining it so well, I was just thinking of this shloka that I say every morning, and I can understand that shloka more deeper right now because of what you said as well. And thank you. Thank you so much again. Because right now you talked about Krishna, you talked about Gautam Buddha. You have closely been inspired by so many different personalities, and you have, studied Lord Krishna, Gautam Buddha, Guru Nanak Ji, Lao Tzu, Sant Kabir, Osho, and so many more. Has there been a sort of a pattern or a sort of a similarity in the teachings of all these different people from your experience and from the study that you have done so far?
All the names which you referred to just a short while ago, all of these spiritual luminaries have one thing which is in common. Besides the point that they have spoken of the highest truth, they have laid down a higher divine vision for the masses and humankind to inspire them to traverse this path towards self knowledge, self realization, and higher truth. One thing which is common in all these spiritual giants, luminaries, mystic, enlightened beings is that they exhorted humanity in their times to overcome their misidentifications with shortcuts such as blind superstitions, rituals, which only leads them further away from the higher truth. Be it Guru Nanak, be it Gautam Buddha, be it Krishna, be it Osho, be it Sant Kabir, all of them were quite unabashed in their critique and satire of the pundits who when I say pundits, I'm not trying to derogate the Brahminical class, but essentially this is a satirical term which I would like to associate with beings who are trying to exploit people's gullibility and vulnerability and trying to intermediate between the masses and the God. There can be no intermediary between you and the God. Yes, a true guru and a true master, through his presence, through his luminosity, can awaken you to align with your own inner guru. So to that extent, yes, a true guru has a very distinctive position in our spiritual life. However, as unfortunately is still a prevailing case in our times, that many of our fellow friends and humankind are are somewhere unconsciously led to believe that by performance of certain rituals, certain deeds, certain tasks at certain times of a calendar year, they can earn themselves a free pass to heaven and they can earn themselves to moksha. Nothing can be further away from the truth. Sant Kabir has written verses of poems critiquing the pundits who are exploiting the gullibles. Krishna, when he exhorted Arjuna that surrender yourself unto me, cease your identification with all false religions and take refuge in one true religion and surrender unto me. This is a metaphorical statement. When Krishna exhorts Arjuna to surrender his identification with all false religions and take refuge in one true religion, what is it essentially Krishna is trying to say to Arjuna? He is trying to drive home the point to Arjuna that you must seek refuge in one truth, in the oneness of existence, in the oneness of universe, in the Brahman, in the infinite. And that seeking of refuge in infinite can truly flower through the transcendence of your egoic mind, through the transcendence of your five senses, or through the transcendence of your mind-body complex. Because it's only through the transcendence of the mind-body complex can you experience yourself as a primordial spirit. Once you experience yourself as a primordial spirit, only then you can experience the oneness of existence. you can experience the true religion.
Yeah.
So all these mystical giants have exhorted humanity to not fall into the trap of blind superstition, blind, meaningless rituals, and place their utmost faith and trust upon themselves and upon the universe, and to take a conscious step towards the infinite through, you know, through their own efforts and striving. And yeah, that's my take on your question.
I absolutely love that how you have focused and talked about superstition, rituals, because it is so unfortunate that even today it is so strongly believed and practiced. Whereas we are not looking at our karmas, we're not looking at the way we think, we're not looking at the way we're performing our actions as a human being, that how far away there are certain things we do are far, far, far away from the guide of humanity. And we are still stuck up in karmakand, as they say, as the rituals. We
Yeah,
are just so
yeah,
stuck up
yeah,
in those things. So I absolutely love the fact that you highlighted on it, because as educated beings, I see people who are believers of rituals. There's nothing wrong in rituals. They are a
yeah.
part of, the process. Because say in the morning, if I want to light a diya in front of my idol,
See, ritual. Yeah,
it is
yeah.
also a sort of a ritual. But we need to start, questioning our whys. There are some things that help.
Absolutely,
We don't question.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely, Jagruti. I was very. Uh, it's very important a point which you have made, and I have something very interesting to highlight. See, rituals is a means towards an end. It's not an end unto itself. Where majority of seekers are getting it wrong, or folks who affiliate themselves with a particular religion, is they are taking rituals as an end unto itself. It's a means towards the end, and it's a means which can be exercised with all the fanfare, all you know, all celebration, all fanfare. It can be indulged in with utmost fanfare. However, if the ritual doesn't allow you to consecrate your higher spirit, if it doesn't allow you to sublimate your egoic tendencies to unravel your spirit, then that ritual is utterly meaningless. It can be consigned to the dustbin, to a trash box. It's not going to aid in any way or form to your spiritual awakening or growth. Leave alone leading you high to to the highest dimension or the highest truth. You are, if these performance of certain rituals, like in such a blind way, would only reinforce your mind and illusions, and it will only reinforce your illusions, and to a degree that it will become even more difficult for you to uncover your spirit, because you have become so habituated with certain aspects of spiritual endeavor that it becomes more difficult to jolt such beings out of their conditioned stupor.
Yes.
To overcome their stupor, they then have to invariably either get themselves into a traumatic experience which jolts them out of their stupor, or alternatively they would need to come across an enlightened master or someone who can exhort them out of their illusions.
Right, right. No, absolutely. 100%. I agree. And also, there's one more thing that really, really got my interest is when you talked about oneness and the understanding of oneness. And I believe that what we see around today, it's all because we don't see oneness. What negativity or the discomfort that we see within us and around us is because we're always differentiating creator and me. Yeah, that's it, separate. Each one has their own relationship. But even between another human being, my own family members, my own siblings, my own colleagues, my own community people, as you rightly said, that we are all a part of the infinite. The only thing is to see. And once we start seeing that oneness, I think the world is going to be such a better place, because
Oh,
then we
absolutely,
will not be
absolutely,
arguing or fighting over this, because then we wouldn't be seeing each other as different.
absolutely, absolutely. The prevailing neurosis and the collective madness which has gripped this world, which has manifested itself in countless wars, genocides, killings, wherein fellow human beings have inflicted unspeakable horrors on their fellow human beings, when a human being has been worse than the most vilest of animals, where humankind has committed acts which should, make our head fall down in shame. Why, we have been privy, our civilization has been privy to such brutalities committed by fellow human beings.
Mm.
It's because of their identification with their false beliefs. And what is a false belief? The false belief is a flowering of a mind which has gone awry. A false belief can only take root in you to a degree to which you are disenchanted or alienated from your spirit. To a degree you are alienated from your spirit, you will fall into the trap of false beliefs, which will create an inevitable phenomena of of viewing world as a disparate set of beliefs, ideologies, which will then lead us to a very dangerous path of depriving our fellow human beings of their humaneness. We will then start labeling them as not as human beings, we'll start labeling them as units or objects or entities. When Stalin, who was the dictator in the erstwhile Soviet Union, he has been credited, or rather, I would say, he has been notoriously credited to have been responsible for the killings of more than 10 million people in erstwhile Soviet Union. And there's one particular hideous remark which has been attributed to Joseph Stalin, wherein he had said, when one person dies, it's a death, but when millions of people die, it's a statistic. So we need to understand, when such a statement is being made by someone who is a staunch believer in certain ideology, what does it do? It definitely should be revelatory enough to us to understand that how misidentification with mind, or rather I would say identification with mind to a point that you staunchly believe in a particular ideology, can lead you towards a very dangerous path of depriving fellow human beings of their humanness. Then people become exclusively oriented towards their ideology, and everything which falls within the ambit of their ideological framework can be justified. Anything which falls afoul of their ideological framework can be dispensed with, even if it were to include fellow human beings.
Right.
So this is a clear-cut example of how the spiritual degeneration has created this phenomena, or this collective madness, which we are still grappling with.
Yes.
And the only alleviation, rather the only solution to this phenomenon of collective neurosis, to my understanding, is meditation, is undertaking a sincere spiritual path towards uncovering your spirit. Because only through aligning oneself with one's spirit can we see through the apparent illusion of multiplicity. Multiplicity is simply an apparent illusion. It's just apparent, but it conceals within itself an underlying oneness which can only be perceived through the lens of our spirit.
Right.
A mind can only view world through a dualistic lens. But spirit is the only agency of our being, the primary agency of our being, which can view and perceive the world through the lens of oneness.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. There's something so interesting because in this conversation, you have used the term spirituality and you have also talked about religion. Now, in today's day and age, there is so much brouhaha about religion. When it comes to religion, we feel a bit afraid. If I say, oh, I'm a religious person, this first impression comes as, are you fanatic? Would you want me to practice your religion? So, something that gives us our way of life, way of thinking, way of worship, we are actually scared to acknowledge that, yes, I am somebody who believes or who practices this particular faith or this religion. Considering the times that we are in, it's become a very sensitive topic. Whereas, if you look at spirituality, everybody's talking about it. There is no difference, there is no fear when we talk about spirituality. Number one, do you agree to this scenario, what I'm saying? And number two, what are you? Are you a spiritual being or are you a religious person?
I do completely concur with your former views, wherein how religion, or rather, I would say, being known as a religious being, invites suspicion and invites uh, an awkward, view or look from quite a few uh, in our day-to-day life. Why has it come to such a pass? It's because religion, the true religion, has been hijacked by the missionary elements within these institutionalized religions. A religion has been hijacked by zealots, by fanatics, by missionary bigots who have reduced religion to a religious enterprise, an enterprise which can only satiate its thirst by garnering more and more followers, which can only qualify the greatness or the validity of a particular religion on the basis of how many of the fellow humans are its adherents. So, shorn of all niceties, I would rather say religion as it is being practiced or as it is being made to appear to the world is nothing short of a religious political enterprise. It's a political enterprise.
Yeah.
They, you know, it has ceased to be a storehouse of highest truth as the leading spiritual giants had revealed to the humankind in their age, from Krishna to Sri Ram to Buddha to Jesus Christ to Sri Shankaracharya to Guru Nanak to Kabir. And I can go on and go on. I can speak many more such luminaries across cultures. They spoke of the highest truth. They laid down the vision of the highest truth, which is unadulterated. But come to, but see the poignancy of our times where fellow religions or custodians of the institutionalized religions are ever so competing against themselves in this mindless rush to prove their religion as more worthy or better than, say, another particular religion. And by doing this by indulging in this very act of proving oneself better over the other, they are proving their spiritual bankruptcy.
Right. Yeah.
Because highest truth is one. They can be varying interpretations, but the highest truth, the ultimate truth of oneness is one. Highest truth is one. So if any particular adherent of any particular religion were to lay an exclusive claim on their path being the sole path towards the highest truth, then it must be understood that that particular adherent or that particular adherence interpretation of their religious text is not truth, is not truthful.
Mm.
It's far from the truth.
Yeah.
Um, and spirituality, as it is being understood, is is a non-institutionalized approach to the highest truth. And I would consider myself all in out a spiritual being who has grown in a Hindu milieu, who acknowledges his Hindu upbringing, who acknowledges the great heritage within the fold of Sanatan Dharma, who sees and acknowledges the highest truth as condensed in our leading Hindu Sanatan Dharma scriptures, which, and when I say Sanatan Dharma, I am encompassing traditional Hinduism, Sikhism, Jainism, Buddhism, Taoism. They are all offshoots of one mother tree called Sanatan Dharma. But unfortunately, even the adherents of Sanatan Dharma have, many of the adherents of Sanatan Dharma have fallen into the pit of exclusivism, of have fallen into the pit of blind adherence to certain set of rituals, certain set of actions, which they, in their good mind, believe would pave way to higher understanding and higher truth, which is quite unfortunate because, as I said a while ago, highest truth is one. Paths can be many, but no path is antagonistic to each other. There can be hundreds of paths, there can be hundreds of pathways, there can be thousands of religions. These religions can purely be understood from the lens of that a particular path is more conducive to a particular human being basis his or her disposition. But when you were to say that this particular religion is better or this particular religion enjoys the sole authority over the highest truth, then I must confess that it is utter nonsense.
Yeah.
Because the sun doesn't distinguish or discriminate between any two different beings who are following separate religions. Right. If the air doesn't discriminate between fellow human beings, if the earth doesn't distinguish between fellow human beings, when nature doesn't distinguish between fellow human beings, then who are you to assume the fact that God, which encompasses all these entities, would distinguish between you or someone else? Yeah. It is simply your mind, which has been fed this illusion of false beliefs, which has been conditioned since ages, which has, which has made you fall into this trap.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that it is so man-made. And as you rightly put it, that it has been politicalized, you know, it is political. And I feel
absolutely.
that
It is political. Absolutely.
It is political and it is commercial. It is this sense of, I want the power for, again,
absolutely,
financial gains, commercial gains, political
absolutely.
gains.
Absolutely.
So we've just become
absolutely.
like puppets, you know. We're being
Yeah,
used.
it's been so commercialized. You just look around and you see, in the name of spirituality, all, many so-called spiritual leaders are indulging in, what nonsense in the name of spirituality. They have reduced a spirituality into an enterprise. It has been reduced to a social club. Okay, my social club has more following, I'm more powerful. It's like a kitty club. Every people are, reveling in creating their own social clubs. I have this following or this many millions of followers. Oh, I have this many followers. I have this many that. I have that many that.
Yeah. But I really hope that in these times where we are all trying to understand ourselves, I believe never in the history has spirituality, connecting within, been talked about the way it is today. So I feel that We have the power, the conversation has started, the need to seek has started. You know, I feel that most of us have somewhat embarked on that journey. We are no longer looking at materialistic things as the final goal in life. We're all trying to seek for so much more. We are seeing the other side of life. So, you know, and as in the Pandora's box, the last thing to come out was hope. So I am really, really hopeful that we all collectively grow as a consciousness. We all grow together on this part of spirituality while being religious beings, because religion is important as long as it does not differentiate. And no religion says to differentiate. So I hope we all can walk on that path together with love, with this happiness and joy within us that spreads all over, and we make this world a better place.
Very well said.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Rohit. This has been a very enlightening and a very positive and a very spiritual consciousness, conversation that has even contributed to my spiritual consciousness. So, thank you so much for being on the show. And I am so grateful that you did this. As a sign off, is there any message that you would like all of us to take back with us from this conversation, or something that you believe in, that's something that we can take back and probably implement, or anything that you would like to say to all of us?
So, but before I sign off, I must acknowledge, uh, you know, Jagruti, for your great efforts in sharing varied viewpoints across different dimensions of human endeavor to your audience. You're doing a commendable job. Thank you so much. And thank you for allowing me a platform to speak and to share my vision as I understand with the audience and the world. As for what I would like to convey to the audience, I would say that awakening is your birthright, joy is your nature, bliss is your self nature, thriving is what should define you. There's never too late to embark on the journey to uncover joy, to recreate meaning in your life, regardless of what you might have experienced in your past, regardless of the traumatic experiences which might have overcome you in your past. You must at all times remember that your allegiance at all points must always be, your highest allegiance must always be to the highest intelligence, to the universe. And as you lay your allegiance to the highest intelligence, you would certainly and over time very starkly recognize that the highest intelligence really wants you to thrive and rise to your highest potential. It wants you to experience infinite expansion, because the infinite has much at stake at your merger with itself.
Mm.
It will experience unspeakable happiness to see one of its own awaken to its inherent wellspring of infinite joy. So that would be my signing off statement to all of you. And thank you once again, Jagruti.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Rohit. I am supercharged and energetic to recreate meaning in my life and to connect deeper with the infinite in whatever way I feel to connect with him, her, it, whatever anybody believes in. And yeah, I'm super, super, super charged to do so. Thank you so much again. And I hope you all have enjoyed this conversation. And I hope you all have learned at least that one new thing to implement in your life to connect better with yourself and to connect better with the infinite. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope to see you in the next episode. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you so much for listening. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode. If it has inspired you, even slightly, then please like, share, and comment. See you on the next one. Until then, remember, our time is limited. Let's make the most of it. Keep watching You Are Human on YouTube and listen to these amazing conversations on Spotify and other audio platforms.